Okay.
Hi. Well, thank you. My name is Linda Smith, and I'm your MC tonight. And although I might be the voice right now for the meeting, we had quite a few people working very hard on this presentation, so I want to be sure to give a shout out to all the members of the committee that did this program. I believe at the beginning of the chat there is a sign the petition for the Publix plastic bags. If you can find that, feel free to copy it or go ahead and sign that petition during the meeting. We really want to reduce single-use plastics. So the Sierra Club mission statement is here with the little red squiggles: to explore, enjoy, and protect the wild places of the earth, to practice and promote the responsible use of the earth's ecosystems and resources, to educate and enlist humanity to protect and restore the quality of the natural human environment, and to use all lawful means to carry out these objectives, which we always like to try to keep those objectives in mind. This is our listing of our Loxahatchee leaders. So if you see someone's name there on something that you want to get involved in, such as Ida Foster for single-use plastic, please feel free to reach out to her and talk to her about it. We also have volunteer opportunities that are basically open positions. Virtual publicists, which we're always looking for articles brief to inform the public about our meetings, events, and programs. A membership co-chair, which would help to welcome new members and get them involved. A program chair that would help chair and coordinate these monthly meetings and other events. Inspiring connection outdoor leaders. Although this is currently on hold during COVID, there is a training program. So if you're interested in this, perhaps we can get you started on the training program, and as soon as we get the green light from the Sierra Club, we'll be ready to go with our first children's outings. Political interviewers, we're getting ready actually for the municipal elections. Believe it or not, there's going to be another election. It's coming back. And we need to do political interviews to see who we want to endorse. And we also have, not last but not least, is the newsletter co-editor to oversee the publication of our monthly online newsletter, which is an excellent source of information. So we're going to highlight some of our new members that are getting very much involved. And first is Alexia Howard, and she is going to be one of the two moderators tonight for the program. She was raised in South Florida and for the last 20 years, but originally born in Zurich, Switzerland, which is very interesting. She graduated from FAU with a bachelor's degree in urban and regional planning with a minor in leadership. She started working as a planner for the city of Delray Beach, and she currently is a planner for the city of Margate in Broward County. She joined the Sierra Club in October 2020 as the executive secretary for the executive committee of the Sierra Club-Loxahatchee group. So a big round of applause. Everybody find your little clap button.
Yeah.
Practicing our Zoom skills here. And also we want to spotlight Haley Hargonich, and I may have gotten close on that last name, but she is also going to be one of our moderators tonight. And she is born and raised in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. And she spent a lot of her time in the forest during winter escapes and swimming at the lake in the summers. It allowed for a deep ancestral understanding of protecting our land and all creatures. She accomplished the move to from the mountains to the city of Miami and gave a path for her professional career to health and wellness industry. She aspires to be a spa director and a spa educator for 13 years developing wellness and education through inspired by nature programs. She's a published writer on, and I'm going to mispronounce this, Ayurvedic healing for international spa magazines. She resides in Miami Beach, using my escape via the ocean. It's through this force of nature that has led her to longing and wishing that she could have been the one many moons ago walking next to John Muir, naming trails and mountains together. And it's through the Sierra Club that she finds this closeness and bond to create safe, educated communities and protecting our lands for future generations. So everybody give a round of applause for Haley too, please.
All right.
And our next meeting is December 10th, scheduled for a program on octopus. So if you've got your paper and pencil, write that down. And now I'm going to unshare my screen and introduce our fearless leader, Mary Cassell, who is the current chair of the Loxahatchee group. She works for Broward County Public Libraries and is Assistant Adult Services Supervisor and Learning Services Coordinator at the West Regional Library in Plantation, Florida. In the group, she works on membership, programming, equity, inclusion, and the Elaine Usherson Summer Camp Scholarship Program. She's going to now talk a little bit about the film that we were all to be watching, hopefully before the meeting, but if not, feel free to watch it after the meeting. Thank you.
All right, absolutely. I would love for everyone who watched this film to please say yes in the chat. And if you didn't, no shame, no shame. You always can watch this film. This just gives me an idea of who had a chance and who didn't. Somebody watched it twice. Gosh, that's wonderful. There was a lot of content in this 54 minutes. I think you will all agree. It was a massive tour across the world, a worldwide tour that took over a year. And there were many guests that were interviewed from many countries, trying very hard to break this tremendous addiction that the world has since the 50s, as the film points out. It was in the 50s that we developed this economy of convenience, and everything that was wonderful back in the 50s, convenience, durability, versatility of plastics, has all been flipped to be of a negative and detrimentally public health crisis. So we need to work and we need to transform, and we need to do this in partnership with not just individual households that we all have tried to do with converting our beauty products and our plastic garbage bags in the house and all kinds of things we've tried to do, but we must partner with our government as well and the corporate world. This takes all of us working together to reduce the excess plastics in our world. And it's troubling. It's something that we have to face nevertheless. It is something that through this film, we saw the problem of 9 billion metric tons of plastic on the planet. And something like only 30% is ever recycled. So the rest of that is just in landfills and on beaches and tremendous beautiful places like Easter Island. And they have really, they're not the ones that caused the problem, but they're the recipients, sadly. So they said it was about like a garbage truck full of plastics that gets dumped into the oceans of the world every single day. 350 tons a year that goes in, that's actually produced, excuse me. And then there's only this global recycling rate of 9%. So that translates into we ourselves need to start reducing our use, pressure the corporations to stop the production, because we all know what's happening. So the worldwide crisis is the problem, and how can this problem be solved? Well, in the chat, if you watched this film, I only had 5 people respond, I think, that they watched it either once or twice. More like 10 people. So if anyone has a burning desire to put in a solution into the chat before I go and summarize for you, that's fine. Go ahead. There's no mistakes, because you're probably right, even if the film might not have brought out that particular solutions. Like any problem, there's all kinds of solutions. So, all right, Alexia, could you just put in the next bullet? Okay, so we already said this. Citizens are the ones that need to help and purge their households, change their habits. This is something we can do. We just have to look at ourselves and accept ourselves as addicted, and then we work together to help each other. We have apps. We have the My Little Footprint app, which I will share in the resources at the end of this show. We're going to show you a way to email Alexia to get the resource slides so that you can sign up for some of these really cool apps that you can use, which are free, that will help you to reduce plastics in every component of your life. And it also directs you to where you can buy alternatives. It's really a very great app called My Little Plastic Footprint. We'll share that at the end. Okay, next slide. We need to do this 40%. The industrial ecologist that was interviewed in the film said, hey, if we can reduce our plastic, single-use plastics by 40%, we will have done very well. Hi, Kat Uden, I see you. We have a real campaign, plastics campaigner from Oceana in our audience. Thank you. She's putting things in the chat right now. Okay, and so you can be checking the chat while we're talking. So the government is who we need to deal with too. Like cities that are leading the way. Seattle was mentioned. Toronto was mentioned. Scotland as a country. Canada, the second largest country in the world, by next year, from coast to coast, is going to go plastic free, believe it or not. So we can do this. We have great models. Let's go to the next bullet. And break free from plastic pollution is yet another petition. This is a United States petition that is throughout the country. We'll put that into our resources. So be sure to look for those and even add your email at the end. And the final bullet, we're going to go on next to our next speaker, corporations taking more responsibility. We saw Unilever, which is an international company, and Coca-Cola, another international company, taking the lead, saying that by 2030 and by 2050, they are going to go completely recycling in all their materials and their packaging. So this can be done. Okay. Great film. I do encourage you to watch it. Miss Anna Nawaz is a great journalist, and I recommend it. So let's move on to our next guest. And I'm going to introduce Ida Foster Perry, a member of our Loxahatchee group and our conservation person, one of our conservation committee members. Okay.
Okay.
So, yep, I have it just hanging loose here. All right. So Ida Foster Perry is a veteran of the Vietnam War. She is was an operating nurse and worked for 27 years in the maternity newborn ward, and she is now retired to Delray Beach, Florida. She has apprenticed in the last couple of years as our event chair, and she took charge of most of our tabling events. She has a team of volunteers that she works with, and she is investigating right now in the last year plastic alternative items on our tables. She's selling them and doing quite well, I might add, on some really unique items. She's participating in the XCOM's Ready for 100 initiative, which has to do with new alternative energies. She's involved with solar expansion. She has been representing our conservation values by speaking at the Delray Beach City Council against plastic straws. and beach construction in Delray Beach. Going forward, she is committed to supporting leadership of preserving America's wildlands and wildlife. Ida, let's hear from...
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening for this very important message. I would like to start by saying that every generation has an opportunity and an obligation to recognize problems and to create solutions. So our National Sierra Club decided that every state should start its own campaign to reduce and eliminate single-use plastics. Here in Florida, our St. Petersburg branch, of which our speaker, Janet Stanko, who will be coming soon, she and her group organized a petition to take to Publix for them to start stop handing out the plastic bags. Now you ask, well, why Publix and why plastic bags? There's so much plastic. And I'm going to read you a fact sheet very quickly to explain the reason for the petition and why we chose to go this route. First of all, we know that Americans use over 100 billion single-use plastic bags annually, and Publix Supermarket is the largest grocery chain in Florida, distributing 1.7 billion single-use plastic bags annually. And on average, these plastic bags are only used for 12 minutes and only around 5% are recycled. And you know, plastic doesn't biodegrade. Instead, these single-use plastic bags photodegrade from exposure to sunlight and wave action. And it is estimated that 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the ocean each year, impacting over 600 species of wildlife. So good reason to go after Publix. We also know that while the legislature has banned us or has not allowed us to ban single-use plastics in our communities, yet we know that Publix is sensitive to local communities, and we feel that if we have sufficient petitions, we can speak to them and we can ask them, very nicely, of course, to stop putting out these plastic bags and go from there. So it would be wonderful if we could get everyone here to sign the petition, give it to their friends, their families, and when we get to a certain number, and Janet will talk a little bit more about that, then we can go to Publix and we can actually say, look, the public wants you to stop putting out these plastic bags. Our world demands that you stop putting out these plastic bags, okay? And now that we have a little information about some of the things that we have been giving out and selling with the Sierra Club, I'm just gonna bring out a few things real quick before we get going. And some of the stuff I'm gonna show you here comes from One World Zero Waste in Tequesta. They have a wonderful store. This is where all this stuff is from. I have here the sporks, and it goes in a little plastic bag, which they make at the store, hand make. And also we have sandwich bags, different sizes. They have bamboo toothbrushes, no plastic. Okay, and they also have many, many different types of straws and the cleaners and everything that goes along with that. And they have a whole list of things in their store, things I've never even imagined could be made. So if we get back into the event stage, eventually you will see some of the other things that we have, also some of the things that we can get from the Sierra Club. But as we know, there's many, many items out there that we can use instead of plastic bags. So one of the things I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce our speaker. And, oh, what happened? Oh, I lost you. Okay, well, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce tonight's guest speaker and the 2020 recipient of the prestigious Environmental Alliance Award. And her name is Janet Stanko. To give you a little information about Janet, She was born and raised in Akron, Ohio, and graduated from the University of Akron. She moved to Cleveland, Ohio. She married, had 2 children, and completed her MBA. In 1983, Janet moved to Jacksonville, Florida, where she developed health insurance plans for Blue Cross and Blue Shield for 22 years. Like many of us, Janet then embarked on a second career in real estate and investing, and also started to focus on environmental and community activism. And this is where she comes in with us. Janet has been active in the Sierra Club since 1992. She served in the Sierra Club of Northeast Florida as the chair, political chair, and on various Sierra Club Florida committees. Among them, the Southeast Visioning Steering Committee for COJ Comprehensive Plan Development, the Florida Hometown Democracy Constitutional Amendment Campaign Organizer, the priceofsprawl.com Project Manager and Web Administrator and Community Outreach Organizer, and the WJCT Community Advisory Board Chair. Currently, Janet is the chair of the Florida Single-Use Plastics Campaign. Tonight, she will talk to us about the problems of nanoplastics, the life cycle of plastics, and the Stop Using Plastics public campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ida. Okay. Janet. Okay, we're going to ask everybody to mute except for Janet. All your guests, Ricardo, mute, please. Ida, we can all go muting even if we're a panelist and not speaking. That will help. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Ida, for that wonderful background, for sharing my background. I've been involved in a lot of things, but I think plastics is one of the most important initiatives we can get involved in, and hopefully I'll share with you some slides that hopefully will make you feel the same way, if you're not already there. Okay, let me just go into the slideshow here. And, oh, this is the end, not the beginning. Okay. The problem with plastics and what can we do? We environmentalists always talk a lot about the problems, and we're a little short on solutions. So I want to talk some about the plastics part of the issue, and then talk about the solutions with our Publix petition being kind of a central one, but not the only one. This picture was in I think it was the Tampa Bay Times today. It's a little Ridley sea turtle, and he's trying to get to the ocean, but he's stuck in a plastic cup. So I thought that was quite expressive of the kind of dilemma we find ourselves with.
We don't see your screen.
You don't see what?
Your screen.
You don't see the screen?
You don't see the slideshow.
Oh.
Share screen at the bottom of your...
Share screen. Okay, I thought I didn't have to do that, but I will.
Yeah, you're going to share your screen and your PowerPoint.
Okay. Let's see. Let me get us into slides. Present it again.
That's great, Janet. We can see it.
Good, good. Okay, here's the Ridley sea turtle trying to get out of that cup so he can get to the ocean. And these slides, these first few slides that are focused on plastics and impact on animal and human health, these came from the University of Florida IFAS, a presentation by, that was created by Maya McGuire, and she graciously agreed to let us share some of her slides. Here's the issue. And of course, the problem with plastics, film goes into this in more detail. But these are called microplastics. And this is what you can find in the ocean, inland waterways, neighborhoods. I mean, I'm going to talk mostly about ocean. However, it applies to freshwater and our neighborhoods, because we see plastics in inappropriate places in our neighborhoods too. These are microplastics technically are less than 5% in 5 millimeters in size, and it's post-consumer content. This is after the consumer has used it, and it's not just us public consumers. It could be in various commercial processes, manufacturing processes, but these are plastics that get released into the environment. Every piece of plastic ever made still exists today. It's just in smaller and smaller pieces. So this is the post-consumer type of plastic. And this is called pre-consumer plastic. During the manufacturing process, the manufacturers will create these small bead-like things, which are called nurdles. And they're different colors depending on what they're going to be used for. But these nurdles are created and then distributed to the various plastic manufacturers that make the items that are used out of plastic. But in that process, a lot of nurdles can be released into the environment. Through sloppy handling, accidental spilling, and that adds to the load of plastics that is released into the waterways and oceans. And here it says almost every piece of plastic ever made still exists. And what does that mean for generations to come? Here's another aspect of the plastics problem. We know that these plastics, as we talked about, get into the oceans, and there are toxins in the oceans, chemical toxins dissolved in the seawater, and the interaction of the toxins with plastics exacerbates the plastics problem. You have the impact of marine life ingesting the plastic, but they also get the toxin that goes along with it, that is attached to it, because the plastic, for some reason, attracts toxins. And these toxins are like things that you've heard of: PCBs, DDT compounds, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, which, not many of us have heard about those, or PAHs, but there are some issues with them. And so when these toxins attach to plastics, it multiplies the toxic impact on anything that consumes it by, I think there was one statistic of 100 million times as toxic. So you've got the plastic and you've got the toxin, and it's consumed by marine life. These are true questions. What impacts do microplastics have on marine organisms? Can microplastics bioaccumulate up the food chain? Bioaccumulate means it stays in the bodies of the fish or people, rather than being excreted through our digestive processes. So we don't know what impacts bioaccumulation can cause. And of course, the ultimate question is there potential health risks from microplastics as we either directly consume them or we consume the animals that are exposed to them or have consumed them. And like I said, these are questions. We don't really have any conclusive research yet. There are some small studies, and I've only picked out a few just to show examples. Dolphins were shown to have phthalates in their urine. They did research on 17 dolphins in Sarasota Bay. Now that's a very small sample, and so it's an indication that we need to do more research, because it's also an indication that that phthalates accumulate in dolphins and they are not excreted. Microplastics are found in human poop for the first time. 8 stool samples. Again, it's a pilot study of small numbers. And the significance of these small number studies, and you'll see more of these in the media, is by themselves, they're not compelling. But when people and scientists and those who fund research see these studies, it makes it so that it's easier to decide to fund more extensive and conclusive studies. We don't have those conclusive studies yet. So we're having to depend on our common sense and risk avoidance, but there is indications that there are human health impacts from plastics. Microplastics have been found in tap water, beer, sea salt, oysters, mussels, and this is just a partial list. And we keep saying beer. Why beer? Well, apparently it's through the production process of beer that it comes in contact with plastics, because the beer itself ends up with a higher concentration of plastics related chemicals or microplastics than the tap water it came from. And a big source of microplastics is drinking out of single-use plastic bottles. It's many times more concentrated in microplastics than tap water, but tap water does have microplastics in it. Globally, we are ingesting an average of 5 grams of plastic every week. That's the equivalent of a credit card. And it seems hard to believe, but there was a study done in by the University of Newcastle in Australia that suggests it's 5 grams a week. And what if it's not 5 grams? What if it's a half credit card? That's still too much, especially when we think about our children and our grandchildren. And the fact that plastic in the environment is increasing at a fast rate. And so our children and grandchildren will be exposed to a lot more, and it's especially impactful on young developing systems, as you know, occurs with children. And here's another figure: 8 million metric tons of plastic entered the ocean in 2010. By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there will be fish. And so that just shows that we not only have a big problem now, but the problem is accelerating. There was a study that says up to 5 grocery bags of plastic per foot of shoreline migrates into the ocean. And of course, Florida has 1,350 miles of coastline. So our coastline is Florida is especially important in stopping plastics from going into the ocean. There are many studies of, are many audits as people collect waste, plastic wastes along the coast, or even within on dry land. There are a lot of different kinds of plastics, which are in the top 10 list of items collected. And so you can see that, you know, plastic is a big item as people inventory what they collect on coastal cleanups. And anticipating, just looking here ahead, plastic grocery bags is always on the top 10 list. Here it's number 7. Some of the lists show it number 5, but plastic grocery bags is very high on the list. Okay, what can we do? Well, I'm going to stop and save this for a couple minutes. Refuse, reuse, and recycle. Yes, we need to do that. But we can't recycle our way out of the problem, because not all single-use plastics are recyclable, and a fairly low percent are recycled. I think in the United States, it's about 10%. In Europe, it's 30%, and we certainly need to find out what Europeans are doing that we aren't doing. Litter cleanups. Yes, we have to do litter cleanups because our our wildlife areas adjacent to the beaches are highways for litter to go into the ocean. And so we need to do litter cleanups. I mean, and we don't even have to just go to the shoreline. We can just go through commercial areas, along the roadways. All of those areas ultimately feed into water bodies. We need to do litter cleanups, but we can't clean our way up out of this problem. Passing laws banning single-use plastics. I have written here maybe, but not in the current legislative environment in Florida, because our legislators are not open to restricting single-use plastics. And the Florida Retail Federation donates a lot of money to our legislators. The Florida Retail Federation is an organization of many retailers, including the supermarkets, and they funded the campaign to ban laws that ban plastic bags and straws. So yes, we need to try, and we are trying. We have our lobbyists out there every year trying to do what we can, but we don't give a high probability at this point.
I can't get them on here.
Waste to energy. That's a very nice term. Waste to energy means you take all the trash and burn it, because you're not going to take it to the landfill because the landfill is too far. That is an absolute no. It creates air pollution. There are about, I'll just say 5 major air pollutants. The ash is also it's a question of what do we do with the ash? And so it's absolutely not a viable option. If your bathtub is overflowing, do you clean up the water or do you turn off the faucet? That's, I think, kind of how I want to transition into what we're about in our Publix campaign. Recycling, litter cleanup, that is like cleaning up the water, but it doesn't stop the source. So we need to reduce the volume of single-use plastics at the source, because we don't know, there as much data as we have on single-use plastics, we don't have a figure on how much of the single-use plastics that's manufactured and in use goes into the environment. We, on a percentage basis, we do have, we've just talked about the tons, and a lot of that tonnage is worldwide, which makes it a little harder to apply it to Florida. But we don't know what the percentage is. But we do know if you reduce the total volume of single-use plastics, there's less going to go in the environment. So that's kind of the lead into these plastics campaigns, and ours in particular. We want to force producers to reduce single-use plastics, and we consumers, we can make our lifestyle changes, and we need to. As we learn more and more about how we can modify what we do to use less plastic. But when our products come to us that used to come to us in paper bags, like for example, I buy a lot of bulk flour and rice and stuff. It used to come in paper bags. Now it comes in paper bags lined with plastic or total plastic bags. I can't control that. We can try to have a campaign and target some of them, but they need to figure out how to deal with this, how to meet the needs without using so much plastic. They are smart people, and they fund their research. And so that's why we're talking about the source. Why Publix? Well, Publix is the biggest supermarket in the country, in Florida. They have over 800 stores in Florida and over 200 in Georgia. And so we wanted to focus on A, bags, because it always meets the top 10 list. B, there are alternatives to plastic, single-use plastic bags. There are, obviously people need to bring their own bags, and also they can give you paper bags. So that is something that would have a high impact, but it's not difficult and doesn't take any re-engineering to do. Also, the petition drive creates public pressure, and we spread it through social media, and we know that producers, and Publix in particular, does not like to hear bad things about themselves, and they monitor social media. They've spent millions of dollars trying to make themselves look good. And at some point, the public pressure will have an impact. Publix is one of the main funders of the Florida Retail Federation, and all their brother and sister organizations, other retailers like Walmart, Winn-Dixie, will be more likely to follow if Publix makes a change. Now, you may say, okay, you've talked about how huge this plastics problem is, plastics in the ocean, more plastic than fish in 2050. This is just so horribly big. Some people are saying that the problem of plastics in the environment is bigger or as big as climate change. It's the next climate change. So how can we even presume to think that we could make a difference? And the Publix campaign, what is it really going to do? It's Florida, it's one supermarket chain, but actually there are many campaigns, and I know this was mentioned earlier tonight. There's our campaign, there's our Publix plastic bag campaign. There's the campaign to get restaurants and takeouts to not automatically provide foodware. I don't think that campaign has broken yet, but it's in the planning stage. There's one to get Whole Foods to reduce single-use plastics in their store. Campaign to get restaurants to commit to more environmental practices and less waste. NoPlasticDrinks.com to reduce use of single-use plastics. And this is just a few of them. I didn't want to bore you with listing a whole exhaustive list, but they're going to be seeing pressure from a lot of different campaigns and a lot of different organizations, not just a bunch of tree huggers, because they can put us in a box and they know how many there is. But if many organizations and many people engage with these campaigns, the point is going to be taken. And they know that they're going to have to change their ways. And by us putting out these campaigns, we are all communicating individually, but also as in the aggregate. So don't look at any one campaign and say, oh, that campaign is not big enough for the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. No, there's no silver bullet, but it's silver buckshot that's going to get us there. And we all have to, when we are presented with a petition or a pledge opportunity, I pledge to not use single-use drinking bottles, then do it. It's not, I know it can be annoying, but do it, because you're participating as an individual, but you're sending a big high-level message. And as we grow in skill in dealing with this, our skills will evolve. But this is where we are now. And this is what we've got now. So we have to run with it. And so we're asking you to sign our petition. Normally, when we're not in COVID, we would also have postcards. And but the petition does send an email message directly to Publix, and I'm sure they're watching our campaign. We want to get 20,000, and then we'll see if we can get a meeting with Publix. They're tough. They're very tough, but we will not stop. If they don't meet with us, then we will continue our campaign and make our messaging, our public messaging, edgier, so that we think that we will be successful. Not we as Sierra Club, but we as all of us, because we need to support each other's campaigns too. And this is the end of my presentation. Here's I don't think this lit. Oh. Well, it's live for me. I don't think it's live for you. I don't know. Oh, it's gone. Oh yeah, there it is. It takes you to the add up. When you get to add up, you may not, well, if somehow you don't see the, this cloth bag in the picture, then just enter Publix in the search bar and you'll navigate to it. But anyway, that's the end of my presentation, and I think the next step is to just kind of discuss questions.
Great, thank you so much, Janet. That was a great presentation.
Can I say something, Mary? This is Drew.
Yeah, Drew, just a moment. I hope everyone, first of all, before you speak, just check the chat. We have lots of things in the chat. We have the Add Up campaign there that Janet just posted on the last slide. So we will try to save this chat. I think I've successfully enabled that tonight so that I can save it and send it as part of the resources. So please make sure that you email Alexia at the end of this program. She's going to share her email at the final part. Okay, Drew, you have a question.
Well, I had a statement, and I just wanted to thank both Ida and Janet. And Janet's really done a fantastic job with this, and under difficult circumstances, and really appreciate everything she's done. There's a couple of other ways that people can reduce plastic. One is when you go to a restaurant, decline a plastic straw by just saying, you know, I don't need a straw. It's really important to tell the server that before they bring the drink, because if they throw the straws on the table, they're most likely going to get thrown away. So that's a really important way to reduce plastic use. And even though I know a lot of people aren't going to restaurants still, some people are going out. And we're actually working on getting a plastic straw ban in other cities, and West Palm has one. The other thing is when you order takeout food, be sure to tell them not to put single-use plastic in the bag. You have to tell them up front that you don't want any plastic use. So that was my statement. Thanks. I just wanted to add that in.
Okay, if someone else has a burning question, we'll take one now. Just unmute yourself and you can speak.
This is Linda Smith. Could you discuss the preemption? There's a lot of chat and thoughts that we can't do this because of Tallahassee, and it's my understanding that that's not correct. Can anyone join in on this conversation?
And if anybody else doesn't.
I'll tell you my impression, and then you can share yours, because I'm, you know, I might not be up on everything, but the ban is on styrofoam and plastic bag bans, and they call it preemption. Preemption is a blanket term that refers to any kind of law that covers the whole state, that keeps cities and counties from passing more restrictive laws about a certain topic. So I think it was 2008, they passed a law to ban, I think it was plastic bag bans and styrofoam bans. And there were some 4 to 6 municipalities who actually passed the ban figuring they could challenge it, but on the first or second round in court, the ban was upheld and they were going to be sued. So all of the cities and counties that had passed those bans had to back off and remove those ordinances. Now, is there something?
Hollywood just passed a ban October 21st.
On plastic bags, styrofoam?
All things plastic in the restaurants, right, Kat? Kat would know.
Yeah, so Janet, thank you so much for your presentation. It was so good, and you made so many great points. When I do presentations, I make pretty much, you know, all the same points that you do. I've signed your petition. Thank you for doing the Publix. I mentioned earlier that there's a website called plasticfreefl.org. It was put together by a young man. He was 19 years old and a whiz at websites. And basically I told him, you know, can you put something together, you know, that's anonymous. It belongs to everybody that's working on plastics in Florida. It belongs to you all, it belongs to us, it belongs to everybody working on plastics in Florida. And it's basically a resource that has everything you need to work on plastic pollution in Florida. So it has your petition, it has corporate petitions, like you were mentioning, corporate campaigns. It has, you can do it at the local, state, and federal level. So it has the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act. It has a tab all about preemption. It has the exact preemption language so that if a city attorney is nervous about what you can pass and what you can't pass in your town, it has the exact preemption language on that website that you can share with them. It also has examples of what you can pass locally. So the preemption is that you cannot have a complete ban on plastic bags. You can't say that, you know, stores and restaurants can't hand them out. And there is also a preemption on the polystyrene foam as well. But so you cannot tell a restaurant or Publix that they can't sell the foam or they can't give out the foam. However, there is a loophole in the preemption language that allows you to still ban it within your own city property. So that could be city property, it could be the sidewalks, the parks, the beaches, anything that belongs to the city. So that's what we're working on, you know, with Oceana, with my job. We just passed one in Fort Lauderdale, actually, this week. So on Tuesday, we passed Fort Lauderdale banned polystyrene foam on all of their city property and parks and beaches. So you can still do that. It is a reduction. It's not, you know, a full ban. So it's you know, a little bit harder, but it's still what we can do. And it sends a message, like every time a municipality passes this, it sends a message to Tallahassee that, you know, these cities care about this issue. Like, we're serious, we want this done. And the more that we pass them, the more it pressures our state lawmakers. So, you know, they tried to preempt straws as well, but luckily our governor vetoed it. So you're still allowed to ban plastic straws. You can ban plastic utensils. If your city, there's no preemption on plastic utensils. So if you want to ban, that's what I'm working on in Hollywood now. So if you want to ban plastic utensils, you can do it. You can have a complete ban. That means Publix wouldn't be allowed to sell them. No restaurants would be allowed to give them out. Your Publix would have to start stocking wooden utensils. So that's what I'm working on with Hollywood. The thing of Hollywood is a little bit different because on our barrier island, we had an old ordinance that was about, sorry, I'm talking a lot, about 40 years old. And because it was 40 years old, we were allowed to keep it. It was never enforced. Can you believe this ordinance 40 years ago said nothing that isn't biodegradable east of the Intercoastal Waterway. It said no plastic, no foam, no nothing. Everything had to be biodegradable. So when I saw that, I said, oh my gosh, this is better than anything we could have come up with. And we're allowed to use it because it survived all the preemptions. It's grandfathered in. So we pressured the town here of Hollywood to start enforcing it at the end of 2018. And they've been doing it. So nothing on the barrier island, none of the businesses on the Hollywood Beach Broadwalk are allowed to use any plastic or foam. So very recently, because that was so successful, we asked them to pass a ban on all plastics on city property throughout the entire city. And they did. So we just passed it. That means that, you know, after a period, I think of 6 months education, nobody's going to be technically allowed to be using any plastics on any city parks, the beach. So yeah, when people rent a pavilion or have an event or a food truck event, or, you know, that includes foam coolers, and they also banned intentional balloon releases. So there's still things that you can do within your town, and that's what we're working on. Sorry, that
Okay. No, don't apologize.
Sorry, I can talk about plastics all day, sorry.
We see you are a plastics passionate person, big time. I see you all the time, actually, on Facebook. It's amazing, the breadth and the length and the height of all the things you're doing.
Could I just say one thing?
Go for it. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I'm from St. Augustine Beach, and last year, with a lot of work, a ban was passed on plastic bags and foam and straws. And we know that the governor allowed the ban on straws to go through. But this was passed, and after the latest preemption bill came through the legislature, that had to be rescinded. And I think ours wasn't the only municipality where it had to be rescinded, but it did.
So that was rescinded because Coral Gables lost their lawsuit. Coral Gables lost their bag ban, and they're right on the cusp of the preemption. And they were going to take it to the Supreme Court, the Florida Supreme Court, and they wouldn't hear the case. So that's that. You're not the only city that had to repeal it, unfortunately. That really stinks. But yeah, that one's in limbo. But I did put in the chat, we invite you all to attend the Rise Above Plastics Lobby Day on March 9th. We're going to be we're probably going to do, I'm imagining now it's going to be virtual, so it'll be easy to attend. We don't have to go all the way to Tallahassee, but you're all invited on March 9th to come to these meetings with our state elected officials and ask them to repeal the preemptions. There was a preemption repeal bill last legislative session. You probably know it didn't go anywhere, so we really need more people to participate in these lobby days and ask for repeals of these preemptions.
Our state legislators, we've gotten nowhere with them.
Well, we're going to create a lot of pressure now.
Okay, good.
You all are invited. We're going to create a lot of pressure.
Okay. Are there other questions from our audience for our esteemed guests?
I have one. Do we really think fish is safe to eat? with the amount of plastic that's in fish?
That
Can anyone answer
question
that?
came up in the film, and the researcher had said, you know, I eat it because frankly, there is plastic in the air we breathe. There is plastic in everything. So
Okay.
she tries to be aware of the type of fish that she eats. And if I'm not mistaken, the larger fish would be less plastic. Drew, you might know more on that.
Actually, it would be the opposite. The larger fish, because of bioaccumulation, would probably have more plastic in it, because each step of the food chain would increase the amount of plastic in the animal. I mean, we just don't have the research, but I think we're going to discover someday that all this plastic's really harming people, and it may very well that we may find out someday that it may be causing autism. We have a huge jump in autism in children. We don't know, but for years no one knew that lead was harmful.
Right.
Kids had rooms with lead rooms. In fact, the doctor who came out against lead was harassed by the paint industry tremendously. There was a time when people thought smoking cigarettes was healthy. It was actually, in the industry fought back when scientists said that was unhealthy. So now we don't know what the impact of this constant accumulation of plastic in our own bodies, along with all these other chemicals. But plastic captures a lot of bacteria on it and captures other things. It's kind of porous if you look at it under a high microscope, and so a lot of things are adhered to plastic that get into your system, and that's also one of the problems with plastic out in the environment. Fish accumulate the bacteria from eating the plastic. It also makes them feel full, and oftentimes they starve to death. That's happened to a whale that they found on the coast that had died, and it was completely full of plastic.
Okay, and I put into the chat a new film that's going to come out addressing this very issue on the health impacts of plastics. It will be next year, an independent film by Rory Fielding Films. I've had them come and speak at the library on their sea turtle film called Troubled Waters. It's a father-daughter team, and they are in the process, right, Kat, of creating a new film called Plastipocalypse. And it is, you can see the trailer and you can see it's going to be really, really good. That's in the chat right now. And just keep your eyes open for that. I'll press this here. New film 2021, Plastipocalypse.
I would just like to add to the conversation, since we're in that stage where we don't have conclusive research, it's up to each of us to have to make that decision for ourselves. And we might make a different decision as we're feeding our grandchildren and children than we do for ourselves. Myself, I have backed away from fish because of not just the plastics, but the heavy metals and the fish that are endangered. And between all that, I've just said it's just too confusing. I'm cutting way back on fish. But I think that's just an example of how we have to make our own decisions. Now, that researcher in the film said, she does eat fish because she recognizes there are other sources of plastic. And that's, that's another valid position. So we all just kind of need to think about it.
Okay. Another point made in the film, if I may say this, is that we can do our part in our own local areas very well when we partner with schools, colleges, our workplaces, in our own workplaces to create plastic-free zones. That's a very powerful thing to do and to consider for the new year. Okay. Drew?
Mary, I just wanted to add, with so many people now staying at home and using things like Uber Eats and, having food delivered to the house, it's really important to tell them to leave the single-use plastic utensils out. Don't, ask them not to deliver those, because you have your own silverware. It really isn't, when you're eating off plastic silverware, you're increasing the amount of plastic in your body. So that's something everybody can do. If you order any kind of takeout food, please, ask them, don't you know, because I throw all kinds of stuff in the bag. I was actually in West Palm, and somebody had thrown a bag down they had eaten some food in their car and thrown it on the ground. So I always pick stuff up like that and, you know, go through it and try to, you know, discard it so it's not out in the street. And, you know, they had gotten all these, you know, single-use plastic utensils, which they never used, and the bag was full of them. So that's something everybody can do. If you order any kind of takeout food, ask them not to put all this extra stuff in the bag.
Right. Yeah, that's refuse. One of the 4 R's is refuse. It's a powerful one. Yeah. Ask for no ketchup mayo envelopes. Those are loaded with plastic. All those wraps around our condiments that we pick up and throw in our refrigerator because we get so many. So just don't do it. Don't participate. That's Linda Smith. Thank you. Looking through here, other questions? Not so many questions, but comments. Keep them coming. Okay. All right. I think we're ready for the next portion. And Hallie, I think you've got some slides, some other resources to share.
Yes. Hello. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Just give me a moment. All good?
Yeah, if you could put it in presentation mode, slideshow or presentation. Play from start.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay. So yeah, pretty elementary stuff here, but I think at the end of the day, coming back to basics is pretty much where we need to go and re-begin. So we have some other resources here, right? Alternatives that keep our nature as opposed to destroying it. Because we really want to head into this new 2021 with the thought in mind that we want to really campaign to stop single-use plastic. It's going to be really important for our future and, you know, our backyard, which is our beaches and our beautiful land of Florida, right? So let's start here. NL Banyo, right? Sustainable and worthy replacements, disposable razors, toothbrushes, shampoo, conditioner, Q-tips, right? Just to name a few. These products will generally help us not compromise our landfills. As you can see, our landfills are pretty packed up. They get a little smelly, no place to put them, so it really starts with us in our own home. So razors, we have a site here where you can buy razors that are bamboo. Bamboo is a really, really wonderful product. It's beneficial for the earth, and it also it holds the less of bacteria for any type of reusable product. Toothbrushes, another site here. Q-tips, right? Okay, when it comes to cotton, this is a great thing. This is made from the earth. So anything that comes from the earth is the most and best powerful thing that we could use for ourselves. And cotton's a natural thing, so it can be degradable on some level. But we have here a cotton swab that can last forever. You just clean it off as you go along. So even great to apply eye makeup and, of course, cleaning our auricular objects on our heads. Okay, and shampoo and conditioner. I mentioned this the other day. I get a little biased when it comes to some things, and that's because I know how some are being made. Aveda is a really amazing company. They use wind turbine energy to create their products, and it's all made here in America, right here in our own backyard. So this is in Minnesota. So this is something really powerful. This is what we want to see for our future. And skincare, another biased component here is Tata Harper. We want to buy products that if there is plastic, that it's made from corn, or that the product is in glass, which is like the best thing to use if we're going to be reusing and recycling. Okay, so food for thought. We have a lot of conversation going on about reusable grocery bags. This is going to be super duper important. The oil that's used to make most plastic bags and the fossil fuels is just really harmful for our environment. It just doesn't go away. These are great. Nice little image here of something that was thermal, right? Something that you can reuse constantly to carry food from one house to another or just from the grocery store and out. I love this idea. This is like the true thought of what we need. And there's more to go into that because we want to focus on how to make that accessible for all beings, right? We need to make sure that all people can get their hands on reusable bags. So that's another topic on its own for sure too. We have these like resin codes, right? We see these all the time. The PTE or PET, it's pretty much the same difference, same thing. It shows that it's recyclable. It's one of the best things that we could use to, it's one of the best that we can have for recyclables. It doesn't degrade any food. It doesn't include any BPAs. And they're labeled 1 through 7. And I have a next slide will show you a little bit on what those are. And if there's no number, the code there is that it just cannot be recycled. So sometimes like your pretzel bags or other types of some chip bags will be like that. So just be aware of it. And like outside your ice cream carton, sometimes there's plastic on that. Those things just are not recyclable. So, right, we have a little image here of some of those items. So maybe some of your water bottles, they're like super recyclable, or your detergent bottles, most of them. And of course, we want to remember when recycling, things have to be cleaned out, or maybe the cap has to be on or the cap has to be off. These are all like really special ways of recycling. So it's really good to look at here on the right side, your own county and how to make sure that you're recycling properly. It is important because when you go to these waste management facilities, they are stocked to the roof and just overflowing from how much plastic is being thrown out and even can't be recycled. And if these caps aren't on, sometimes they'll get stuck in the motors and then the plant has to shut down sometimes for a whole day. So it's all about being consciously aware. And speaking of Publix plastic bags, they can't be recycled in most waste management companies. I'm here in Miami Beach and we cannot. They get stuck in the machines and that's how they get shut down too for the day. And that's not good for many reasons. So just to end this here, we truly wanted to create a beach cleanup. This is still in the hopes of it all. And we have some apps on here that you can use because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm cleaning my beaches at least 3 to 4 times a week. I pick up nanoplastics constantly just in the grips of my hand. I'm picking up a lot of horrendous things. And when I'm paddleboarding daily, it's amazing how much chip bags are in the ocean. Won't understand that. So we have here Clean Swell app, Sea Angels app. Okay, these are apps that you can go on and mark where you're at and what you're cleaning up and how many pounds. It's really cool to show that you're doing that. Sometimes I'm a little like sneaky and I don't always show what I'm doing, but that's because I'm just constantly doing it and it's just second nature for me to just keep our beaches clean. And then the Surfrider Foundation website's on here. This is a really proud foundation to be a part of. We have them nationally and just in Florida, we have many in every county. So please be aware of that, especially for Palm Beach County. And please, for beach cleanups and more information, Ida is just amazing and she recognizes trying to make sure our beaches are protected and clean. So please reach out to her. I'll put her email address as well on the side in the chat, but that's that.
Okay, is there any question about maybe even the previous slide? There were a lot of things there. If so, maybe you would like to unmute?
Yeah, I'd like to add a few things if that's okay.
Okay, Ida.
All right. First of all, that conversation about seafood, this is what we have on our, I don't know if people can see this. Can you bring me back? Hold on a minute. Nope. Can you see me?
We don't see. Oh, yeah. So stop sharing, Hallie, so we can see Ida. Is that right?
Yes.
I gotcha.
Okay. This is what we have on our event tables. Okay. And this is put out by Seafood Watch, and that is seafoodwatch.org. It has it's a great little fold up you can take with you. It has best choices, good alternatives, what to avoid. And it's put out by the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Just go to seafoodwatch.org and you can get this. And the nice thing about it is they have them for different parts of the country as well. So this one is for the Southeast Consumer Guide. Okay. Second thing I want to talk about is real quick. Okay, when you go on the beach, as far as it was made very clear to me that the only people that should be on the beach are people that you are quarantining with. You should not be in a group. So unfortunately, we had to cancel our beach cleanup. But I did get this information I just want to share really quick. And it says, don't forget to bring the reusable water bottle and your clean reusable mask. The paper masks aren't as good. Also, reusable gloves and trash pickers are very important because a lot of people, unfortunately, the PPE is on the beach. You do not want to pick that up with your hand. It could be contaminated with COVID or whatever. So make sure you bring along the trash picker and put that in your bucket. And also a lot of the beaches, and especially in Boca, by the lifeguard stands, there's buckets for you that you can use. And I just wanted to introduce that little bit of information. And the Clean Swell app is very easy to use. You can download that. You can go by yourself. You can pick up your trash. You can download it to the app, and it goes to the Ocean Conservatory, conservancy.org/trash, and you can be part of the solution. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Ida.
You're welcome.
And does anyone else have a burning question, a burning desire to know from our panelists? No. So I think that concludes our chock-a-block, chock-full webinar. And I'm going to now save the chat so that we can send it to you, we hope. And we have lots of work ahead, but don't feel alarmed. Don't feel too badly. You know, every effort you do is going to make a difference. We're so happy that you attended. Please do tell 3 other people about it, at least, and get them on board. It's really up to us. We've got to transform in our own households and share it with everyone. So thank you for all of your time, and thank you all of the presenters and other leaders in this group. Special thanks to the panelists. So hope to see you back here, and we do hope to have a series on this topic of plastics, maybe something that would be done throughout the state, you know, with Sierrans across the state. So thank you all. Chat has been saved.